my name is Albert Veenstra. I work at Rotterdam School of Management and Erasmus University UPT, and I am professor in trade and logistics. So the two parties that I work for at the university are both involved in global supply chain management and international transportation, port development as well, and shipping. And in that context, my chair is about trade and logistics, which represents the sort of interaction between international movement of goods and the way transportation and logistics operations play a role in really facilitating the international movement of goods. And as a result of that sort of combination of disciplines, I look a lot at the efficiency of customs operations, for instance, the effectiveness of customs supervision, but also the way businesses organize their trade management and compliance management activities in order to fulfill the requirements of supervision agencies. In addition to my professorship, I'm also a program manager, so I work on consultancy projects and I do educational tasks. And among others, I'm the academic director of the Master of Science in Customs and Supply Chain Compliance that we offer here at Erasmus University Rotterdam. So my current research activities focus on a few things. The first is a paper that I've worked on with Frank Heijman from Dutch Customs, which is about the future of customs. And what it does is it looks at some of the regulation that is being issued by the European Commission, the European Union, on all kinds of, that is touching the international flow of goods. Regulation on deforestation, for instance, the regulation on prohibiting forced labor, regulation on charging for CO2 at the border. And a lot of this regulation requires activities at the border, for which customs is the first go-to party, you might say. But what we are looking into is if the requirements that these regulations impose on customs can actually be met by customs, right? So it looks into what are the current competences of customs. Is customs agency able to develop these competences, or is the set of current competences what you might expect if you work with customs? A second line of research is about trade management practices in companies. So a lot of companies that work in an international environment have to fulfill lots of regulations and have compliance strategies. And what we are looking at, especially in the Rotterdam School of Management, is how do companies do this? What kind of mechanisms do they develop? How do they deal with some of the classic compliance issues like product classification, value determination, management of origin issues, but also how do they organize that activity as a business, and how do they develop departments, how do they organize hierarchy, how do they organize the fulfillment of these activities, where do they draw the line of what they do themselves, what they outsource to specialists. And finally, a line of research that I've been involved in for a number of years has to do with e-commerce. Everybody knows that e-commerce is putting specific pressures on the current method of operation of customs. And we've been involved in some research, especially with Dutch Customs, to find more clever ways of dealing with the enormous flows of e-commerce declarations. And a lot of that hinges on developing methods that work better with the data. So we are looking currently at new risk models for e-commerce, ways in which we can get away from assessing the risk at individual shipment level, but looking at clusters of shipments, clusters of declarations, and trying to identify risks at that sort of level. So that's the third research line. And then in addition to that, I work on teaching. Obviously, I for some courses specifically in this domain, course on advanced topics in global supply chain management with my colleague Marteze Burukbar. I am active in teaching supply chain management and logistics to customs professionals, both in the government side and the business side. Lots of thesis supervision, obviously, in a university, both in the Master of Science in Customs and Supply Chain Compliance, but also in our regular supply chain master, and also in the master for urban port and transport economics. And in addition to all of that, we also, me and a number of colleagues of mine, are also active in writing our own teaching material, because not a lot of that in this particular domain exists. There's a few things, but mostly on global supply chain management and bill of material type of stuff, but not on trade management, for instance, on compliance management, that sort of thing. So we write a lot of our own material with companies. Sometimes specifically we mention the company, sometimes we have to anonymize the companies because the topics are quite sensitive sometimes. But we are developing quite an interesting library of cases and also assignments that we offer to our students. So that is a brief overview of what I'm doing. If you want to get in touch, you can find most of my published material via Google Scholar, for instance. My name is A.W. Veenstra. If you type that in, you will find most of my publications, also some of the non-academic stuff, but resources that are in the public domain. If you're interested in any of the case studies or other unpublished materials, project reports, you can email me directly and we can get in touch and discuss how we could help you. Thank you very much for your attention.